This is Tony Reeves, and let's talk a little bit again about life after the vaccine. Brace yourself for the possibility of a repeat performance. What do I mean by this? We know, at least as a bare minimum, what the worst case scenario is, and we've been through it. Let me be clear about this. That can always return. As we start moving out and back into some semblance of normalcy, doing things at least remotely what we're used to, we're now getting ready to head back into the fall season where all kind of weird stuff happens. And what do you mean by weird stuff? I'm talking about a situation where colds, sniffles, flu, anything and everything that has to do with compromising our immune system. And guess what? When this starts to happen, do not be surprised if we don't find ourselves seeing an uptick in coronavirus cases. Also, don't be surprised if employers find themselves in the position of having no choice but to reinstitute a shutdown. So everything that you experienced this past spring, under the worst scenario in terms of how they had to shut everything down, brace yourself for the reality that we might have to go through that again. So it's important that you don't rush back to the norm. One of the things that's hard for people is that we instinctively resist change. We like consistency and predictability, which is what's another word for being normal. We like to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how to deal with it when it does happen. Once you start throwing in wild cards, we tend to get all bent out of shape. And that's because we don't like to deal with change. So what do we need to do in the meantime, in between time? Be prepared for the reality you're not going to be able to go back to that way. And do not be so anxious to see changes that looks like you're moving back into this direction as an indication that, okay, hot dog, we can get back to going back to the way it was, because the reality is you're probably not going to. Start figuring out the areas that were problematic for you before. If you remember how traumatic it was when the country shut down, and now we're coming out of that. Now, listen carefully. There are elected officials out there that are saying to you, we're not going to go back to that. They may now have a choice in the matter. So it's great to say that because they're trying to engender confidence in you. But if the circumstances change and they have no choice, even if they want to, in the best interest, maintain a semblance of normalcy to ensure the population that it's okay, if the number of cases and the number of situations rises to such a level that they have no choice but to respond in a particular way, they may find themselves having to go back to the way it was before. So start looking back retroactively and saying, in the past, okay, when everything was shaking and baking, what's going on? Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy extra rolls of toilet paper or extra cleaning supplies, but start conditioning yourself little by little to brace yourself for that reality. And make sure you remember to be prepared for what's next. The one thing that this pandemic has done is taught us that we are resilient people and we can move on the fly if we have to. So you're going to probably find yourself in a situation where all these changes are happening and you're finding where things start to calm down. Like, we're starting to calm down. Yes, we're starting to calm down. Brace yourself for the reality. We may have to make additional changes again. We are good at adapting. Just be prepared to do it.